Empathy, because we really have to put ourselves in the shoes of the customer or the final user. Creativity. We need to open up your mind, because that doesn't mean old solution, all the hypotheses are not good. But in the same time, we have to be open to anything new, to anything different. At the very end, we have to face reality. Willkommen to Lara and Farah. Okay, welcome here. So this is an introduction to design thinking. We are not going to work with design thinking, because actually we would need a workshop of a couple of days minimum to work on that. So it's an introduction. So you can get, my purpose is that you can get the basic principles and then understand what it is. And of course, if you like this tool, because for me it's a tool, is a methodology, you can develop it more and use it in your everyday life in work. So thank you very much to AIESEC Norge. Jeg heter, right? My name is Jeg heter, correct? In Norwegian, Jeg heter Vincenzo. Yep. Okay. So just something about me. I've been in AIESEC. I've been in the national committee, and in the national committee, I got to know my equivalent of the national committee in Norway, and they put me in contact recently with Pascal. That's why I'm here. So I still thank my friend Annette, who put me in touch with Pascal and you all. So I've been I've been basically most of my life in French company. I don't know why, but this is what happened to me. So much that now I'm living in France. I'm calling you from Paris right now. I've been living in Italy I was 33 years old, up to 20 years ago. Now I'm 53, and I've been living in France. But I had 1 year and 2 years and something more, 2 years, let's say, kind of full time, and other years part time. I spent a part of my life in a wonderful, amazing region of the world that is called Rogaland, and precisely in a city I love so much that is called Stavanger. Okay, so I know a bit of Norway at least, and I was so lucky. And in fact, I work I was a consultant, and one of my activity, I had activity in France. I was going and coming back, and I was working with some entrepreneur that wanted to, Indian entrepreneur in Norway, they wanted to set up a chain. Nowadays, they are working on Freshly. What you see there, Freshly, is if you go on freshly.no, they provide at the moment in Stavanger, but they want to scale in Norway, in other countries, Indian fresh and dry food, especially, but not only from India, also from other parts of Asia. And I've been in a business school. You are probably coming from a business school. I've been in a business school as a participant and teacher, AIESEC. In famous, as he said, Pascal, now I'm in the INTM group. Is not a big company. It's about 1,000 people in France, but we work on technology, and I take care about the organizational side of technology. In fact, my subjects are strategy execution, change management, team management, innovation also. And basically I'm consulting, training, and coaching on this subject. So just to introduce myself, I would like to get to know all of you, but welcome Usema Kalufi. But we have to move to talk about design thinking, okay? So when we will use design thinking, even if before talking about it, this word design thinking that everybody's using is like kind of trendy sometimes, no? But what do we use this for? But well, the approach I will use with you is that we use it in the business, okay? When we have a corporate, let's think to Statoil, for instance, the first corporate in Norway that I have in mind. Yeah, a corporate has got his own top management, then he's got his own management, different entity, different function, transversal. It could be marketing and some entity, someone, some department specialized in renewable energy, another one in oil and gas, and so on and so on. And each company, every time, set some corporate strategies, especially corporate. And nowadays, in the world we are living nowadays, strategy are often changed, more often than before. If we think to when I was of your age, about 30 years ago, strategy were changing each 5-10 years. Nowadays, strategy change each year, sometimes in 6 months, even. And if a company think they have to change, they change it. They don't wait anymore. All right. So company need to execute the strategy. So strategy execution is another discipline, very important. And strategy execution is to execute the strategy of the corporate at all level of the corporation, of the different branches of the company. Then you have to make sometimes specific projects, specific activities. So you have change management activities, okay? Because you have to accompany the change. But how to change? Design thinking is a tool to start the change. Because with the design thinking, and now we got to understand what is design thinking, what do we do with design thinking, what it is design thinking. It's something that starts a change. Why? Because design thinking, I give you a classical definition, is a non-linear iterative process that teams use to understand users, challenge assumptions, redefine problems, and create innovative solutions to prototype and test. This is a nice expression. But if I look at it like that, yeah, it's nice. But I want to look at it another way. Just ask you to look the same definition, but in this way. I put some color, okay? So design thinking is non-linear. So what's non-linear means? It means that we can get out from the path. So that means that we can, at a certain moment, using this methodology to see different opportunities, not just something organized, set, and so on. It's iterative. What does it mean, iterative? This is a term that is used very much nowadays in the world of business. I will tell you later why. Iterative, it means that I go, I check, I come back, I redo, I go, I check, I come back, and redo continuously. This is iteration. It's teams. Design thinking is teams. That means it's a work that a team makes together, okay? And it aims to understand users. I will tell this again later, but what do we mean for user? User is anyone is a client. It could be client. User is another way to say client. It can be an internal client, an external client. It's still someone is using what we provide. It could be a product. It could be a service. It could be a mix of it. It could be something devoted to externally for selling something to clients, or could be an internal process. So anyway, users is in a generic definition. There is a challenge assumption. It means that when you use design thinking, behind there is a challenge, okay? There's a challenge to cope with. And it helps to redefine problem and to create innovative solution. Wow, creativity, innovation, these two terms, we keep it in mind, we're gonna see that. And it's a prototype and test. Okay, so design thinking is all these things. It looks a big stuff. Actually, my opinion is not so big, it's so nice, it's very concrete, okay? But it goes through stages of creativity, focusing, identification, sharing, open mind, and so on and so on. Actually, we said it's creativity and innovation. Oh, is there any difference between creativity and innovation in your opinion? It's a question I have for you. You can say yes or no. It's the same. You're welcome anyway. Is there a difference between creativity and innovation? Or what's the link between creativity and innovation in your opinion? Come on, show me your power, please. Who want to talk?
There's some comments in the chat box.
Pascal, please.
There's some comments in the chat box.
I'm sorry. Thank you so much. Oh yes, Farouk. Thank you very much. Okay, so let me see. So you can, yeah, please, Farah, please step in.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, first of all. So I'm not an expert, so this is just like my perspective on things and how I imagine it to be. So I think that creativity, it's like sort of that idea of, okay, like this is something that may be possible, this is something new, I think this would sound great. And innovation, though, it's more something that can be actually practically implemented, and it's something that tackles a specific challenge in a way. I don't know if this makes sense, but innovation, I think it's more so like, it's not even necessarily just taking something completely new. You can even improve on something that is current, and it tackles one specific issue that you want, and you can actually implement it in real life. So yeah.
Very good, very good. Thank you very much. So actually, yeah, they are very linked together. Sometimes they mixed, but if we want to provide a definition just to have clear as idea, because sometimes definitions are different, but just to understand each other, how the way in which we will use it. Creativity, it can be applied any field, anything. You can be creative just for whatever, when you cook, anything. We consider innovation, as you said, exactly as you said, Farah, more, let's say, a practical side of implementation in the business, okay, just to understand each other. Can be also non-profit business, but let's say innovation is something we put in practice then in a productive or service way, just to understand each other. Creativity can be in anything. We can think to art, we can think to nature. How beautiful is nature? What is the creativity of nature? It is amazing. There are 400 type of flowers, something like that in the world. Do you imagine? Okay, something amazing. So just to give you an idea. And why do company needs this creativity? Because creativity, it is at the base of innovation. First we create, then we innovate, okay, through the creation, thanks to the creation. And you know why company need this? You know, because some years ago was a way to make step forwards. Innovation were coming each 5 years. Now the innovation is continuous. As you said, Farah, it cannot be, it's not always what is called disruptive innovation, but it can be also what is called incremental innovation. That means that you simply improve a process, a product, just innovating a piece of it, a part of it. You're not necessarily working on the full innovation of the or your subject of study. So company need it. Not only company need it, company are desperate for it, because nowadays there is a global competition. So if you want to differentiate, and this is all about making a company to be different, to perform different, to win the challenges of the market, you are obliged to innovate nowadays in a sense or in another. Sometimes innovation is just simplifying, sorry. Sometimes just simplifying things. That's sometimes reality. It's much more simple, and sometimes we impact more things more with simple things than with complex things. I like a lot the English expression KISS, that is not the kiss, but is keep it short and simple. I like that. So sometimes instead of complicate things, we can keep it short and simple. That's the point. So innovation, it's not always make things more complex, sometimes we need complexity. Let's try to think how to send human on the space. We need, because complexity, why? Because there are so many function together that we need to be complex to manage everything. Anyway, whatever we are, a company, business, to live better in the business world, innovation is of great help. And nowadays is more and more practiced by everyone. And how do they practice innovation? There are several ways, but one of the way that became very famous since end of 2010, beginning of 2010, coming from California, from the Silicon Valley, it's the design thinking. The design thinking, as many things in this day, start from the digital world. But it's not they start from the digital world. Actually, in the beginning of the history, even in the last century, they were applied prototypes and so on in automobile work. But the way in which is known today, the design thinking, come from digital world, but then it's applied everywhere. So design thinking, to give you an introduction to design thinking, there are basically 5 principles and 5 phases of design thinking. The 5 principles are like of a state of mind that you have to have anything you do with design thinking. There is sometimes things that are at the same time a principle and a step of the design thinking. We will see the case. But first of all, we start with principles. Sorry, why? Because we need a certain mindset to apply design thinking. And for your information, I will use, as I said, some terminology, user, but you can think to user also to customer. And another thing is that I will use the term also DT, like design thinking, okay? Just for it. But let's watch next slide and think, let's try to stop, let's try to think. We are client, we go somewhere, like a bank. I know in Norway there are not a lot of problems, there are not a lot of complaints, but I can assure in other countries there are a lot of complaints when you go to your personal bank, when you go to your personal insurance and so on. You are expecting something, and back is arriving something else. And so what happened? Can you see this little draw? Nice. Our highest priority is satisfying our customer. So everybody say that in front, in marketing. But at the very end, many times behind, except when it is hard or when it is unprofitable, and up to here, I'm okay, because I understand it is too hard, it is unprofitable, you don't do it. Or where we are too busy, okay, we are always busy. So you're telling me that your client is never satisfaction of your client is never your priority at the very end. So this is the point. That is not the way of design thinking. Design thinking really think to the customer satisfaction. It is oriented to think to the customer satisfaction, and I would say even more, is thinking to the customer experience. That is a higher stage of customer satisfaction. I will tell you why. Anyway, design thinking, think to satisfy the client from the beginning, and you will understand that with the principle and with the approach. So I would say customer satisfaction, customer experience. In the 80s, last century, the term customer satisfaction came a lot from the total quality management that was applied in Japan, especially from Toyota, and spread around the world, this way of doing of total quality management. And we were talking about customer satisfaction. So when we have customer satisfaction, we intend, yeah, the telephone I buy, it works. It doesn't work. It's okay, it's not okay. The car, it works, it doesn't work. Customer experience incorporates not only the fact that the product or the service is working or is not working, but include also the fact that the feeling I have before, during, and after the sale are satisfied. So not only the requirements, but also my feeling. That's why we talk about customer experience, and you know it very well, because you're much more happy when you go on a website and you find rapidly the information you're looking for. When you don't find information, we get a little bit crazy because we say, oh, well, where is it, this information? It should be there, I can't find it, okay? This is customer experience. So, first principle, first mindset is user centricity and empathy, okay? People, not technology. Even if we are innovating about technology, whatever we are innovating, product, services, our focus must be people and not technology. So empathy is the approach for which I put myself in the shoes of the other person. But this is really what I have to do. The basic point is that when we make customer analysis, we think that we think, sorry to use the same word, we think that we think like the customer. But in reality, we are just thinking like like myself, I'm thinking. I cannot know what the customer thinks. So this is the point, how to discover what the customer really think, and not to leave it on my hypothesis for something that I've listened here and there, and then I have augmented in my mind, I have changed, and I arrive at a conclusion that is not really the one that the customer was looking for. That's the basic point. So for doing that, the state of mind we need is still people, not technology, and empathy. So this is the first principle. Any question? Pascal, you will help me if someone raised the hand, because I cannot see sometimes the raise hand, and okay. It wasn't nice that I made wait Farah because I didn't see a rising hand. Sorry for that before, Farah. It's okay? Any question? Can I move forward? Feel free to do question, because we can do it. This is the place. If something is not clear, because I will not explain, I'm not explaining clear, that you tell me and I'll explain again.
When we say empathy, how does it play out in concrete terms, in terms of the steps that teams who are involved in design thinking actually take? What am I doing that shows that I'm empathizing?
Oh, lovely question. And I do my apologies, not because I will not answer to your question, I will. But if you allow me, because this is one of the first points of the methodology, I will end up first finishing the principles, and then I will answer to your question, how concretely we put in practice empathize. But do you have any idea how we could be really empathic with people?
I know conversations are a great way to demonstrate that, talking to people or asking questions,
Good. Asking question is good. What more?
I mean, reading the energy, the non-verbal energy within a room, from the next person, trying to pay attention and spotting.
Very good. Very good. Very good. Those are 2 points. I had the third one, and we'll see other later on. Another important point, you said doing question, fantastic. And there is a way of doing question, but I don't know if we'll have the time to talk about that. But the following point is listen to the answer. That's the magic and most difficult point. There we can really apply empathy, because humanly it's much more easier do a question than listen to the answer. Because the problem that most of the time we human being, we do a question, but we want the answer in our way. So we listen to ourselves more than to the other. And the secret of empathy is to break this human dynamic that we all human, everybody's doing that. We are doing and really listening to the other. Okay, nowadays also with globalization of politics, you see that the politicians never listen to each other. almost, or a few times. They do question, but they pretend they the answer they want. This is the classical extreme. But I'm not talking about Norway, but talking about Italy, for instance. I can talk about my country. That's what's going on nowadays. They don't listen to each other. They do a question, but they want their answer. They don't want the answer that the other one wants to give, whatever is right or not. So the secret, one of the secret, is really listen the answer, for instance. Okay? One of the secrets of empathy. So, any question? If not, for more, we will move forward to the other principle, a variety of perspectives and ideas. This is another point. And I don't know if the people here, Farah, Kati, Stephanie, Joachim, we have. If you know about AIESEC, I'm sorry to make a personal parenthesis, but 30 years ago when I was in AIESEC, it was the real place, the only place in the world where I learned of varieties and perspective of ideas, because for the first time I was going out of my country and working with people coming from all around the world. And sometimes I wasn't understanding why they were answering in a certain way, why they were behaving in a certain way. But when I started to understand what's the power of respect, I started to see things in a different way. And I started to enrich myself through the diversity of the other. So diversity is very important also as concept in design thinking. Why? Because you need the perspective. For instance, you have multiple kind of clients, so you need the diversity of opinion. But diversity is only in the subjects. For instance, putting together people coming from different disciplines. You put together someone coming from a humanist background with someone from scientific, someone from politics. You put together and you get the most, because you got different perspectives that can enrich your new ideas. So diversity and heterogeneous collaboration, it's important. And I have to tell you, there is a famous Norwegian person that in the 80s has really done a great work. It was in a way a kind of design thinking applied at that time. But I'll tell you later this Norwegian person who is, because he's one of my heroes in my life. I'll come back to later. So another principle is ideation. Okay, that means that in design thinking we can put all the creativity we want, and we can put creativity. Okay, really. Creativity, not in terms of innovation. Innovation will come later, but creativity will feed innovation. And so we can use all the brainstorming principle, like being open-minded, like respecting the ideas of the other, even if it seems crazy. This is one of the principles of design thinking: ideation, creativity, open-minded. Let's be a little bit crazy, reasonable crazy, of course. Another principle, as we said, is experimentation and iteration. This principle, it helps the fact that we turn ideas into prototypes. And the real difference of design thinking, it's some creativity technique put together, but the real difference is the prototyping. Is that what makes the difference in design thinking. And iteration. Once again, iteration is going back and going back and going back. In fact, design thinking has an iterative approach to repeat certain steps of the process to review the version of a product, of a new product or of a new service. Does anyone among you know the agile methodologies that is applied primarily in IT world, but then it's being developed in all management field?
Yes.
You know, Pascal?
Yeah.
Someone else? Have you heard about agile methodology? And what about SAFe? Do you know SAFe methodology? Anyone?
This is new for me.
Is it new? Okay. iteration is the typical way of doing taken from agile methodology. While at the beginning, what was happening? They were doing projects, so they were developing the project. And at the end of the development, after 1 year, 2 years, 6 months, 9 months, they were going to the client and said to the client, oh, dear client, so this is a prototype done for you with the requirement you asked me. The client get the problem. It's soft, it's not hard. I don't like this part. Well, it takes time to work. It's not, I thought it was shorter. Oh, well, but we didn't see this in specification. Yes, but it's normal. So this is what many times has happened. It's called the tunnel effect. If engineers from two countries make a tunnel, they don't see each other. So they go on making hole in the mountains, but they don't see each other, and up they don't meet. So this is called the tunnel effect. The idea with Agile is that I develop a part of the product, and I start to show the basic to the client, just the minimum basic. It's like I take a car without all the options. So I just show him, okay, this is the style like it look like. I make a prototype. Is that you like? Yes, but that should be green and not red. So what I do from the beginning, I make some little change that doesn't cost me so much in time, because if I have to do the change at the end of the period of the project, probably I have to change too many things just for one small things, and so I have to lose a lot of money. So the idea is continuous iteration, and as I said, is the same idea of agile, and the SAFe is the agile applied to a quantity of projects. It's called Scaled Agile Framework. It's the same concept of Agile Scrum, but applied in a big frame of project. Anyway, we are not talking about Agile today. We are not talking about SAFe, but I wanted to make you understand is that the philosophy behind Agile is the same behind design thinking. So let's come to the last principle, and then we go, because we need to answer to Pascal's question, actually. So last principle is action-oriented. So this is another important stuff. The creativity, innovation is not set just for the pleasure of doing that. It's done to step into actions, to produce, to make, to confront, to even to take deception. But this deception can help us to understand how can we improve our ideas. The point is to have the courage to step into action immediately, so to receive feedback and to change if this, because what's the matter of working 3 years for doing something that people will not use? If it is just for our pleasure, if we have the money, we are millionaire, all right, no problem. But if you work for making something productive, this is fundamental. So here another way the empathy put in practice when we engage directly with the end users, with the clients. So we are obliged to cope with them. And we need tangible prototypes for them. So making into action is getting into action means not only have an idea, but prototyping. Okay, we will see what that means. All right, any question up to now? So I'll go through the 5, I just repeat: user centricity and empathy, collaboration and diversity, ideation, creativity, experimentation and iteration, and finally, action-oriented and prototyping. Okay? So these are the philosophy, the principle we should keep in mind. And some of these principles, now we see how to put it into action. Any question up to now? It's good? Good. So now we see, because for sure, Pascal, wasn't going to let me go from this conference without explaining how practically we put in practice, because if not, that's not good. So I know it. So the 5-step, that is a methodology that we put in practice, okay? So you see, empathize, it's a principle, but it's also a step. And by the way, it's the very first step. The second is to define. Third step is to ideate, again, creation. The fourth is prototyping, and the last one is testing. All right? But what do we empathize? What do we define? What do we ideate? What do we prototype? What do we test? That's the point. What do we test? Of course, we need to have a minimal idea to what to apply. We have to have at least a field, okay? Because we cannot say, now I'm going to apply design thinking. Okay, to what? We have need a minimum target, a minimum focus. We want to improve the happiness of the student at school. We want to improve we can go from something pretty wide to something very specific. We want to improve a specific application we do for the students, for instance. Or as Norway is an amazing advanced country in the world, at least as I learn about Norway, this is my point of view, we can even think in a more, how to say, ambitious way, and maybe we can set up a startup, a company who is a champion in what? In creating a perfect ecotech house. So a house is perfectly sustainable and also technological in the same time, the house of the future. We can decide where to put it. We can even decide that we want to apply design thinking, for instance, to something very specific to understand how we can reduce the level of resignation we have in a company. Maybe a company that has too much high turnover. There are a lot of people leaving the company because they are not happy. How to improve the motivation of the company. So you see, we can go from something pretty wide to something very specific. All we have to do is to have at least at the beginning a general purpose, okay, that we want to analyze, because if not, we don't have a subject of the design thinking. So once we have the subject, okay, and you think about the subject in the meanwhile, because I will do a question to you right now. Once we have the subject, we need to sympathize. That means empathize. It means that we have to engage with and observe our target audience. And we need interviews. And here you are, the tool, Pascal, to apply empathy through the interviews. But of course, once again, it's not enough. Interviews should have proper, good questions that help us to achieve information, and also a very high level of attention in listening to the answer, and to take it in an objective way. Because what we tend to do is that we take the answer of the other one, but we transform it with our thought. We interpret it in the way we are. No, we have to be the most objective as possible, very factual. Okay, that's a way to apply empathy. Jose, okay, can you make me an example of something we could work as a subject of design thinking? Do you have any idea? What we could analyze and improve and innovate through design thinking? Do you have in mind something very specific, like a product, a solution, some aspect, or something like more systemic, like improving, creating the perfect house, ecological and technological house? What do you have in mind? Some idea. I need to have some idea, please. So whatever idea you have, it's no problem. We will work on it together. We are here to work together. So I need your help, please.
Does anyone want to share? Okay.
I'm sure you'll have all of idea. Something, whatever, even something you meet in everyday life. We got a lot of nice people here. So what could be something that you would like to improve, to innovate about?
Something from your course.
Just go yourself. Let go yourself. No problem. Any idea, Sahil? Joachim? Stephanie? Kathy? Farah? Amalie? Stephanie, please.
Yes. I was thinking, how do we innovate packaging for, let's say, coffee cups?
Maybe packaging for coffee cups.
Yes.
So you means let's I try to repeat in my way just to be sure you understand. So you means you provide cups, coffee cups, but your will is to improve the package that brings the coffee cups, right? Did I well understand?
Yes.
Fantastic. Very good. Very good. It could be for sure a subject of design thinking. Perfectly. Even I'll tell you more. Design thinking has been born initially for products. So this is a perfect example of a product. It's a package, but it's itself a product. All right. Any other ideas? Proposition, curiosity. We stop there for the moment, but if you have an idea in mind, you tell me, okay? So let's come to it. I have to shorten this window, if not I cannot see. All right. So we need to engage. We have decided we want to improve our packaging for coffee cups, or we want to, when it's an existing product, or when we want to create a new service, I think we want to create a perfect eco-technological house, okay? So what we need to do, first of all, we need to interview people. And who are we going to interview? But of course, the current users, or current client, the past client, if the product is existing already, or potential users or client, if the product or the solution of the service is new. So the aim is to paint a clear picture who our end user are, first of all, and what are their challenges, their needs, their expectations. Okay? When we go to interview people for packaging new coffee cup, we will find different, maybe different ideas, different needs from our customer. But then we'll discover that some idea of a customer in reality can be applicable from more than one. For instance, I just brainstorm. I'm not an expert of packaging, but for instance, you will find some customer, some user that when you go to interview and say, okay, sir, we want to produce a new packaging for our coffee cups. What's for you? What could be for you? What are the most important characteristic a packaging of a coffee cup should have? Well, someone will tell, well, it must not impact the price of my coffee cup. Someone else will tell you, oh, of course, it must be recyclable. If it's not recyclable, I don't want it. Someone else will tell, oh, could I have some information about different kind of coffee I could buy in your shop? for instance, well, you see, they can come up with different ideas. The point is to listen to all the ideas and to find, it's not only to find what the best, but it's to find what the customer like most. Because we don't have to forget that the very end, the point is to cope with their challenges and to help them to succeed in their challenging, in their needs, in their expectation. So we need to empathize to be at their place. And we need surveys, interviews, but especially interviews and observation session. By chance, Farah, not Farah, Stephanie, by chance, the picture I choose, it's around the coffee, okay? But it's just by chance. I didn't do anything magic, because if I was doing something magic, I would have put a package for a coffee cups. But there is a coffee cups nevertheless. Why I choose this image? Because this interview, it's in you can notice that it's in an informal environment, and I think they are the best. Sometimes we need formal interviews, but informal interviews are very powerful because people open up, and we have more chances to get the real thought of the person. What we need is to go deep into the person, but not to discover its intimate feelings, that it's privacy, but to discover really what are their needs, because our purpose is to solve, is to go towards their need, to provide them. So we need that, okay? And so you will find that we did an example for the coffee cup, but you can find that people, what is most important is to have an artificial intelligence within the house that helps him to remind of everything he has to do during the day. For someone that would be more important. For someone else maybe has got a little of ground, so he want to kind of be sustainable, so produce salad every time, also in winter, so he need a protection for his house. So you see, there will be different needs. Sometimes you can provide scalable products, means products that are made by many components, and you can even let choose to the client which components he wants to better satisfy him, okay? But you need to know what the customer wants. Design thinking, for instance, is a technique that helps people to understand very well what customer is really looking for, okay? So I hope I answered to your question, Pascal, but if not, you just tell me.
Perfect.
It's all right. Sorry for letting you wait before finishing the 5 principles. All right. Next step, once we had done a lot of interviews and gather all the information, and there is one basic point I forgot to tell you when we do interview, is that we have to prepare an important set of questions, and the question must be mainly what is called open question and not closed question. Closed question must be the minority, the 10%, 15%, no more. The majority of the question must be open. Who knows what's the difference between an open and the closed question, please? You are allowed to say, I don't know it. It's not a problem. Please, Farah.
Okay, so a closed question would mostly be a yes/no answer type of question, whereas an open-ended question would be, like, it depends on what the answer could be. It's not something expected like a yes/no. So it's very open to interpretation based on what the other person experiences it or knows about it.
The answer is perfect. Very good, Farah. And so first of all, a closed question is a yes or no, red or blue, 1 or 2 question. This is not that these questions are not useful. They are useful sometimes, for instance, to ask for a confirmation, okay? Or in certain situations, but open questions are the key to make open the other person. Usually, open question starts with how, what, when, with this kind of thing. How, what are your strategies nowadays? Okay. What are your approaches nowadays? What's your preferences nowadays, especially with what? This is an open question, okay? The open question provide most of the time a long answer. So we cannot do an open question if we don't give to the time to the other person that we interview to answer. So if we don't have time, it's better we do closed question. It's more honest, because if we do open question, every time we will interrupt the other person, at a certain moment, the other person will stop to answer, simply. All right? So if we do open question, we have to take our time, and we have to do what I said earlier. We have really, what I said, really listening. Sometimes it's called active listening, but active listening, it's also a way using sales methodology to show that you are listening. I'm not satisfied you show me that you are listening. Sorry. You cannot even show me. What I'm satisfied is that you understand my needs, that you listen to me as a client. All right? So, once we gather the material from the interview about the new product, how people would love it, also their crazy idea, I want a package that I can solve in the coffee, for instance. It looks crazy. Why not? I want a package for the coffee cup that I want to solve in the coffee, like sugar, or just a piece of it using like sugar. No, we never know. We don't have to close our door at the beginning. We will have always time to select ideas, but at the beginning, our duty is to accept all ideas, even those ones that looks the most crazy one. All right? Then we define the statement. That means from a huge field of observation, we go to the specific. Okay? We select the problem that is apparently the most important one for everybody. I make it simple. The most important one is that the package for the coffee cup is ecological. Okay, so we focus on that. After that, how we do it ecological, the package of the company. We discover that for the best technological house, the most important part is the presence of certain technology within the house that help the reduction of the consumption, or that support me to have always my fridge with what I need. We discover, we focus on the point, and then we start to define, to narrow the problem. Okay? And we focus on the human need, on the use, and we focus on that. So once we have narrowed the problem, we have a more specific problem, and then we focus on that, and we start our work on that. We start our analysis, but especially we start to ideate, to be creative on how to solve that specific problem. So the specific problem now is that the most important thing is that the packaging of the coffee cup must be ecological. So we work on that, and we work on every way possible, as many ideas as possible, we free our mind to find the idea how we can make it ecological. Okay, for instance, and we can think also in Norway. I find something that I didn't find any other country. I was recently, not in Italy, not in France. In Norway, there is this fantastic stuff that you take the bottles and you go to supermarket, like Kuprix, Extra, Rema 1000, what more, Kiwi, that's what the ones I know. In Norway, you go there, you put your bottle, your empty bottle, and you even get money back. It's incredible. It doesn't happen in Italy, in France. So it doesn't happen. I guess it happened in Germany, but not in Italy, not in France. You don't get back the money from the plastic bottles. Okay, so this is amazing. Not counting that sometimes this plastic bottle helps some people for personal needs. Okay, we have to free our mind and to find any possible idea. So how we can do that? We can do it using a brainstorming technique, using mind map, and we find idea with what we said before, with multi disciplinary teams, because you need the social idea, for instance, for the cup ecological, but you need also the engineer that knows how to make something that is chemically made in with certain property. Okay, you need you have different techniques of creativity. Brainstorming is one, mind mapping is another one. Generally speaking, you need this. You need what we call get out of the box. Now, when they say get out of the box, what does it mean? Now, it's not like this guy get out of the box. It means open up your mind to new possibility, to new idea that could be for a packaging of a coffee cup or for the perfect ecological, technological house, whatever. Once you find also the idea and you select it, it's time to prototype. So you see, you step into action. There is the time that you put away what you cannot do and you start to do what you can do. And you start to make a prototype. It could be a cartoon prototype if you want to see an house. I can do a maquette, a mock-up, for instance, on a table to show it. I can do it a 3D conception by the computer, just to see how it could be the house. We don't necessarily need to make the house to make a prototype, but we can find different ways. We can use prototyping in small scale and so on. Prototyping is very important because it's tangible. So customer, then end user can see it. I remember the first time I learned about this way of being the design thinking was in 2011. Okay, it was a professor from San Francisco, from Silicon Valley, and we said, so now you think a project. At that time, applications were starting to spread up. There were not so many. So me and my classmate, we had an idea to make an application, so that, because in Paris, you know, you don't have time, never. When there was no COVID, you never had time. Now we never had time, but we are stuck in the house. Before we never had time, but we were spending 1 hour, 2 hours in the subway to go, 1 hour, 2 hours to come back, and we arrived at house very late. So we said, why we don't make an application that it connects to all the restaurants around my area, and automatically I display the different kind of food I can have. So if I want tonight Chinese food, I click on Chinese food, or if I want a pizza, I click on pizza. If I want Japanese, I on Japanese, on Lebanese, on French cooking, whatever. I click and I have the possible menu that different restaurant can making, and just clicking the certain time I order my food for a certain hours, and before going home, I pick it up and I go home and everything is done, is ready. Okay. How do we do the mock-up? We do it on PowerPoint. We start to take images of pizza, of Chinese food, and we make on a PowerPoint, we make an image of the phone, of a front face of the phone, and we put it, and then we make a way that we were clicking on pizza and another sub-menu with several pizza was coming up. So you can do a prototype in several times. Nowadays, there exist very modern tools about prototyping. You can still do it on paper. You see, this is an application. Okay, once again, it's coffee. Stefan, it's not about the packaging, but it's about talking about the coffee. Okay, but you can use a paper to see how an application can be done, and you just make it with your hands. But it's still a prototype. This is the most basic one. But nowadays there is the famous UX design. What is UX design? It's a user experience design. So there are specialized people that thinks, for instance, to everything, website applications, and thinks that the best way to make it easy to use to the customer. Just for information, for instance, This Is Awards is a website when they do every time the ranking of the best website coming out. Okay, so you can get fun there to see example of website or awards. This is an application, Sketch, that helps you to make sketch and to make prototypes on visual. And there is another one, for instance, InVision, where you can actually design sometimes prototype application for a phone if you want to produce an application. All these things come from the digital world. But once again, when you're doing and something that is different from software, sorry, you can also use paper, cartoon, wood. When I went to school to make this course on design thinking, first time I hear to talk about it in 2011, we do it with wood sticks. We make the prototype. Okay, whatever. This is the idea. So you can do the prototype of our house. Once you do the prototype, the last step we said you have to test it, because if you don't test it, there's no empathy. The empathy at the end of the cycle, at the beginning, is made by gathering information from the user. At the end is getting feedback from the user. So you go to the end user with your prototype, and you ask him what he thinks about, what particularly he likes, and what particularly she doesn't like. They don't like, and you get feedback, and you do it with many people, and many of them will provide you wonderful idea to improve, your product, your service, your solution, your whatever is the subject of the study of design thinking. So that's why design thinking was revolutionary, because it was not only the creation. The creation exists a lot, but what was not only the prototype, because prototyping was existing, but was combining the two things together, and was not, because before, in the last decade, they were doing prototype. Once they do prototype, they do the product, they spend 3 years for the product, and that's it. No, in this case, with the same thing, you do the prototype, after a few time, 1 month, 2 months, you do a new prototype. Or if you can, you start to do a piece of the real final product, the real one. That's what they do in software. They develop a new software. At the beginning, it doesn't have all the functionalities, but the core of the software is the one that will be in the future. So they can already have input from the client. So the time to develop all the software, they will change what the client has already said that they didn't like it. So they will be more effective on the market, because they will have more empathy to what the customer is asking, and they will come back. This is the iteration. Each 3 weeks, each 1 month, they go back to the client to show him what they made in the last month, what they add on in the last month, and to see what the customer think about it. And if not, they will change it, adapting along the time for all the period of project, whatever is 9 months, 1 year, or 2 years. This is the principle. It's all about creativity, prototyping, agile methodology, all combined together in a nice process. Okay. One final point, please take it seriously. Please take it seriously, it means what I said already. Don't go to ask for question to your user just to show them that you ask question. Go there to listen to them. That means to be serious, because if you are not going to listen to them, don't do the questions. Simply more honest. Okay, so I repeat: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. These are the phases for application. So this is what I call the introduction to the design thinking. Any question?
Yes, I have a question.
Please, who is talking, please?
Stephanie.
Stephanie, please.
Yeah. Okay, so you've given a nice process that guides design thinking for a product or perhaps a service. What happens if you get to the test stage and then the product is not well received? Do you go back to step 1, or do you repeat the whole process of empathize from the test stage? Does it become a cycle?
Very good question. First of all, I'm happy if it happens. If it has to happen, I'm happy it happens, because before investing money, I got to know there are 2 possibilities. The first thing is to review back my process. okay? And I have to review seriously back my process to see if I missed some step. For instance, the quality of the question was not good enough, so it's good to repeat interviews, or I didn't do enough interviews, so I have to do it more. But maybe I did it, so I don't have to repeat the stage. Maybe the problem is another one, that we didn't put enough creativity. Maybe it was that the prototype was not, we invested too less time, so the prototype wasn't representative of the idea we wanted to share. Unfortunately, the only way is to analyze back the process and to see if we missed some step, so we reiterate on the steps. Then if we did all the job in the bad way, we repeat everything. But if we feel we've done a good job, maybe this is not the right angle, maybe this is not the right product, this is not the right prototyping, this is not the right way to approach the product. All right, this is a point. But first of all, we go back into the process, we get back into the room, all the teams, and we evaluate the steps we have done, in which way we have done it. And we evaluate, but first of all, I would say we evaluate the answer of the client, because maybe the answer is already there, because we didn't took into consideration certain point. All right.
Yeah.
Welcome. Any additional question? All right. So.
Sorry to interrupt, but I have a question actually.
You don't interrupt, please. You're welcome. Who is talking, please?
Farah.
Farah, please, Farah.
Yeah. So my question is mostly like, when do you know when to like stop testing, or that you actually have enough results that are viable or that you can use and that are sure after you finish the prototyping, the testing, and so on?
It must be reasonable, it must be affordable, and it depends from the number of clients you have. If you work in a small market, for instance, a B2B market, okay, when you provided a service to another company, you don't need 30, 50 companies. Of course, the more you meet, the more perspective you have. But at a certain time, you have to stop, because if not, you will spend your time doing interviews. But surely, when you have, where you are in the business-to-business environment, you need less tests and interviews, because the customer are more or less the same. If I produce new pieces for an automobile, I don't need to meet 50 automobile producer. When I meet 4 or 5 of it, should be reasonably enough. All right. But if I produce a product like a package for a coffee cup, there I would need more, because the number of clients is why. What we need is a reasonable percentage. Okay. So if when we do something for this kind of product, they are of mass use, we have to be ready to have a good sample of people, 50, 100, it depends, okay? But surely business to business demand less testing and interviews and testing than business to consumers. All right?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks to you so much, to you all for the questions. Any other question? So, to end up, I would like to, as we say, put my sauce in it. Secret for success. So, secret for success for me, it's we find a lot of people that in the history have inspired success. I want to mention some of them. This guy, for instance, it was an amazing guy. This guy was lived between at the beginning of last century, so a lot of time ago. But he has done in his life 186 patents, just scattering. And he used to say, if you have always done it in that way, it is probably wrong. This is in a way the extreme of innovation, because like that you put yourself in a spirit that you always innovate. but I feel very close to it, because I think not every time, but each time we can step down, and we can work on innovation. If not working every day of innovation, there is people specialized in that. There is another inspirational person for me. That one I told you, she is my hero, luckily for the moment. Do you know this lady? Someone Norwegian. Is there? Oh, who is?
Yeah, I know her.
You should know her. Okay, I know she's a politician, but I don't care about the party. I care for what she has done in her life. Do you know what she's done in her life? Apart being one of the first, I guess, woman prime minister of Norway, and that's already an amazing achievement. I think it's fantastic. It's great. Do you know what she had done after she was prime minister?
I'm not 100% sure, but I think she has a degree in medicine. So she went into the World Health Organization, and she's also known for a document or a report called Our Common Future, which was like the start of the sustainable movements, like global.
That's why she's my hero, because of that. Because in AIESEC, in 1989, 88, someone in AIESEC International read this report and saw a lot of similarities with the AIESEC values. So they started a world program of all AIESEC around the world, and for 2 years, it was asked to each country to make at least one event about sustainable development. And that's why I got to know about Gro Harlem Brundtland. That's the way I pronounce it. Can you pronounce it in the right way, please?
Gro Harlem Brundtland.
Oh, I love it. Gro Harlem Brundtland, sorry, not knowing very well. She was the president of the commission set from the United Nations to make a study about the impacts of the economy on the environment. At that time, nobody knows about CO2, about pollution, no one. She put together, you see, she did a kind of design thinking. She put together a multidisciplinary team from 22 countries. So diversity of culture and diversity of each of them was, someone was engineer, someone was an architect, someone a politician, someone an economist. She had a wonderful idea to put diversity on it. Diversity is one of the principles, multidisciplinarity is one of the principles of design thinking. And she created the report together with these people, and they create the definition of sustainable development, like the development that is possible not only for current and the satisfy needs not only for current generation but also for future generation. That's why there was so many conferences, world conferences in Rio, in Paris with the climate conference, other one Kyoto, and recently the government were getting a little bit cold about environment, and luckily now they are coming back for many reasons. And nowadays, if we have the Agenda 2030, the sustainable development, this is also thanks to the bunch of people led by Gru that made this. And my dream is one day is to meet her, but I don't know if you will succeed. Okay? So just keep in mind, these people, they are visionary. They don't, we can like some of the ideas, some are not, but they are visionary. This was another one. He was saying, it always seems impossible until it's done. So sometimes we want to do new thing, it seems impossible, but then it becomes possible the moment we achieve it. Sometimes we need sacrifice to do it. And I like another quote from another historical person. Indira Gandhi was one of the prime minister. She's not related to Mahatma Gandhi. They were not relative. They got just the same name because it happens sometimes in the same country. But Indira Gandhi was a prime minister of India, and she used to say, have a bias toward action. Let's see something happen now. You can break the big plan into small steps and take the first step right away. This is another fundamental principle of design thinking. Okay, so design thinking as is nowadays is the combination of many ways of thinking that are already existing, because human beings are always the same. Last things I tell you for myself, I like this picture because it represents a target, and in business we have target, and it represents a heart. So I think another secret of success is, let's do things with sincerity. Let's do things with heart. They are usually most powerful than things done without putting our heart. Thank you for attending.
Thank you so much for the session. I particularly enjoyed your insights and also the way that you interacted with everyone. It was really nice. And I'm always interested in all this design thinking, and I'm actually having some things that I'm thinking of doing within my own team. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You can apply it. Thanks to all of you, Sahil, Kathy, Farha, Stephanie, Joachim. Thanks very much for attending. Amalie and Pascal for organizing. And I'll tell it in a Norwegian way. Tusen takk. Ha det.
Harder.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye, everyone.